All right. Well, again, welcome everybody. I am your instructor, Professor Carissa Span, and welcome to Intro to Property Management. This is week 2, and I am super excited. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for showing up. I am passionate about sharing information. I'm passionate about sharing this class. Just going to do a quick recap in case this is your first day in class. This is our second week. We skipped last week because it was a holiday. So I'm just going to do a quick recap, just a little bit about me. I have been in property management for almost, I'll say 26 years now, so almost 3 decades. I have been teaching property management as an adjunct professor for 2 universities, and I started my own property management company many, many years ago. In addition to being a licensed property manager, I've also obtained certifications as a housing inspector, housing specialist. I've worked for a couple of housing authorities. I got my real estate license in 2007, and I'm also a landlord and tenant coach. So just to give you just a little bit about my background and why I'm so passionate about sharing this class. I'm honored to be part of Hillman Talk, to offer this class for free, because usually when I teach this class, it is at cost. But I'm excited that we are here. We're spending 8 weeks together online, and we're meeting for 1 hour each week. And so today's class is all about the different types of rental properties. And please forgive me. I know I have 2 people who are new today. I have 2 new people who are registered. I don't have my roster. If this is your first day in class, can you drop a 2 in the comment, drop a 2 in the comment section, and let me pull up our information. I'm going to share my screen, but if this is your first day of class, please drop a 2 in the comment section, so I'll know what to cover and what not to cover. I don't want to waste your time if I've already shared information. But by all means, if this is your first day, I never want to leave anybody behind. So let me pull up our information for today. I'm going to share my screen. During our first week of class, you did receive some information. You received industry terms, you received a copy of the syllabus, and you received the first week's newsletter. So if you did not receive that, please let us know. We want to make sure that we can get that to you right away. All right. Let me pull up our class information for today. So let me pull up our syllabus first. I'm looking away because I have 2 monitors here in the lab. So let me pull up our syllabus so we can see what we are covering. I'm always going to start the class with the syllabus so we can always stay on point. All right, so okay, so let me share my screen here. Okay, so this is our syllabus. This is what we are covering this week. Again, this is week 2, and it's all about, let me skip right on down to what we're talking about today, the different type of rental properties. So we're going to touch on the different type of properties, how to analyze the rental market as well as the demand, and then the basics of real estate investment for property managers. All right, so, and again, if you don't have this, please let me know. We want to make sure that we can get you a copy of it. This week, what I'm also going to share, in addition to the material, after I finish sharing my screen, you're going to get a copy of my slide deck. I'm also going to provide all of you with affirmations. So let me pull up our weekly affirmations. I always like to open every class with positive affirmations. So you will get a copy of this. We are definitely going to send this out to make sure that you can receive it. And each week, what we're going to do is We'll open up with the affirmation. So I'll read the first one, and then you can come in and read the second and the third one accordingly. So give me 1 second as I share my screen here. I'm on a new device. All right, so we have the syllabus here. I'm sharing my screen again. All right, so these are our affirmations. Okay, can you check to see if everyone is able to unmute themselves? All right, so I'm going to read the first one, and then I'm going to ask everybody to come in behind me to read the remaining affirmations. Okay, before I move any further, can you confirm that others are able to unmute themselves? You take care of that.
I'm trying to see now. Am I the host?
I believe you are the co-host. Give me 1 second here. Everybody, Kay is my assistant. All right, so Kay, at the bottom of your screen, do you see an icon that says tools? Let's see.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't my screen.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, Christine, Ms. Dunmore, can you check to see if you can unmute yourselves, please? All right, so everyone should be able to unmute themselves now, I believe so. If not, we're going to get straight into it. Okay, you was able to at first. Can you, okay, it's not allowing you to. Give me 1 second.
Okay, there I am.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to share our affirmations. Let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. Hello, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Thank you so much for joining the class. All right, so here are our affirmations. I'm going to read the first one. I'm going to have you all to jump in behind me. So here's the first one. I choose to improve my life and take steps every day to achieve this goal. Can someone read the second one, please?
I can hurdle all the challenges that I encounter.
Yes, beautiful. Next one, please.
I am committed to my education and will prioritize it in my life.
Beautiful. Yes. Next one, please.
I am capable of achieving my goals.
Third one here. Fourth one here. I'm sorry.
I
I'm proud of myself for pursuing my education.
Yes. And someone read the last one, please.
My hard work and dedication will pay off in the end.
Yes, it will. Boom. All right, so we're going to send you a copy of the affirmations. And again, every week, this is how we open up in class with affirmations. So I'm going to get straight into the segment on today. Kay, if you can drop that link to the affirmations in the chat. Want to make sure that everyone have access to that. All right, so she's going to drop that in the chat box for us. And now, as well as the syllabus, can you also drop the link for the syllabus in the chat box, please? All right, so today is all about the different types of rental properties. So if you take a look at the chat box, the comment section, you should be able to see the link to the affirmations that we just went over, as well as the syllabus. All right, so let's get into the material for today. Thank you so much, Kay. All right, so when it comes to rental properties, when it comes to property management, there are key things to keep in mind. All right, so let me see what is going on here. Do apologize, I'm having some technical difficulty on my new device. All right, let me try something else. Give me 1 second. I do apologize. Thank you for your patience. All right, we will go here. All right, so let me share my screen again. All right, can you see my slide deck?
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's get straight into it. We're talking about the different types of rental properties. When it comes to rental properties, please remember that there are different categories. So with the first week of class, we talked about residential, we talked about commercial, we talked about the different types of rental property. For the sake of this class, we're going to stick primarily to the residential aspect. There's residential, there's commercial, there's industrial type of properties. So with the residential rental properties, they do come in three main categories. You have your single family homes, your multifamily homes, and then also I did kind of group in commercial spaces. Each of these offer a unique opportunity, and with each opportunity comes a different set of challenges. So today I'm going to do a little deep dive of the difference between a single family home, a multifamily home, as well as commercial properties. Now, when it comes to the single family homes, this is great for individual landlords. So say, for instance, you have a house that you live in, maybe you purchased it, or it was a family home and you decide to rent it out. That's considered a single family home. Now, when it comes to multifamily properties, those are units, maybe in an apartment building, condos, if you will. But with the multifamily property, the biggest difference here is that there's more income and more management required, right? So when you have just a single family home, there are only tenants in that one specific property. But when you have an apartment building, you have a lot of more people with a lot more needs, but you have more income that's coming in from those units. And then with commercial properties, I want you to think about those office spaces, those retail stores. If you ever gone shopping, maybe downtown somewhere, or maybe even at a mall, right? Somebody owns that property that they're renting out to maybe Macy's or Chick-fil-A or McDonald's. Those are commercial properties. Somebody owns that real estate, and sometimes these establishments will purchase the property and build, and then in other cases, they will rent it out, right? You have Chick-fil-A, you have Chipotle, um, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Popeyes, Piggly Wiggly, right? Grocery stores. Those are all opportunities to manage those type of properties. The most important thing I like to do highlight as pertains to analyzing the market is that you have to understand what the local market trends are, what the vacancy rates are, how to determine a vacancy rate, and then also whether or not there's a tenant demand, because this helps property managers set competitive rates and prices so that they can make or help the owners to make informed decisions if the owner is looking to invest further. So when it comes to vacancy rates, that really just depends on how many units are vacant. So when I say units, I'm talking about apartments or condos, right? So whatever is being rented, you always want to make sure that that vacancy rate is as low as possible. You don't want it to be a high vacancy rate, because that means you have a higher amount of rental units that's not generating income. And I always like to tell my students in all my classes that bricks and mortars or vacant rentals don't put any money in the bank. It don't give you no type of income. It's not sending you any type of check. So we always want to capitalize off of getting tenants in and getting the right type of tenant for each of the rental properties. All right, I think I went a little too far back. All right, let's go back a little bit more here. Okay, so with local market trends, that means that you are keeping track of what the rents are in that specific community. So one of the things that you always want to consider is whatever community you're renting in, whether you own it or you're managing it for someone else, you want to always know what the rents are from your competitors, right? So if you have a house, the other homes in that community that are the same or similar to your type of property, you want to look at how much is their rent, how much are they charging, how many bedrooms, do they have the same amenities as your property? You want to compare apples to apples, right? So for instance, if you are looking for the market rate for a single family home, you don't want to compare that rent to an apartment because those are different type of properties. You want to compare apartments, if it's a 1 bedroom and a den, or 1 bedroom that's like maybe 950 square feet. You want to compare it to your competitor who is in the same community, not across town, not across state, because that wouldn't be a competitor. The rents are usually the same within the same geographical location. You want to look at the tenant demand. Is there a demand for your specific type of rental property? Meaning that are people looking to rent that house or that apartment or that condo, right? You want to take a look at that. Because when you understand how to assess the market, how to check with your competitors, this is how you can stay ahead of the game by setting those rent prices that's not too high, that's not too low. Because if you set it too high, tenants are not going to rent. But if you set the rents too low, then it means you're leaving money on the table. So you have to know how to set it just right, which is why you always want to look at what the rents are in that community. And I don't know why I keep doing that. All right, let's go to vacancy rates. This is the percentage of occupied rental units in the market. This helps property managers understand the demand, how to adjust pricing, and improve their leasing strategies. So let's say, for instance, you do have, or you're responsible for renting out, let's say, an apartment building, right? If the rentals are vacant for an extended period of time, you want to look at, well, why? What's happening? Why are people not moving into this property? Is it that the rents are too high? Is it that the amenities are not what people are looking for? Are the amenities outdated? A lot of newer properties are now coming on the market with all the bells and all the whistles, right? Central air, washer and dryer, all the things, Bluetooth throughout, right? Like all the things that people are looking for because they want comfort and convenience in their home. So if you have an older property that has basically bare bones, no central air, no washer and dryer, it's not spacious, right? It's just kind of like a building, or it's just a house without all the bells and whistles. Sometimes those properties will sit on the market a little bit longer because people will pay for convenience, right? So if that vacancy rate is not conducive to the progress of that portfolio, you want to take a look at what's going on and see how you can make any changes and make adjustments. When I mentioned tenant demand, I talked about the level of interest as well as the competition for the rental property in the market. Because again, this influences pricing, it helps to set the lease terms, and then it also helps with property occupancy rates. How many people are looking for that type of rental in that community? Is it in high demand? Is it near shopping? Is it near schools for tenants who have children, right? Is it close to work? Is it close to a metro or a bus, right? People will take all these things into consideration. So you want to look at the tenant's demand, right? The need for that specific type of rental property. Because a higher demand would mean that it's easier to lease because everybody wants to be there. But unfortunately, if it's a lower demand type of rental property, it may sit on the market a little bit longer, which would require better marketing or a lower rent amount. So with property management and these rental properties, please always remember that it is a business. And although like I said, whether you own it or you're managing it for somebody else, it is still a rental property business. So if you're starting out, or maybe you're thinking about purchasing a rental property in the near future, right? Never despise the day of small beginnings. You may just have one, or you may buy one property, but over time, you can always purchase more. And so I like to include and discuss the basics of real estate investment because, again, it is a business, and effective property management starts with protecting the asset. You always want to protect the asset. So that includes the value, that includes understanding how to maximize that rental income, how to reduce those vacancies, and how to definitely ensure long-term profitability for property owners. All right, so we're going to get into some case studies, and you will have a homework assignment. All right, so here's our first case study. So as we are looking at the different type of rental properties, I want you to think about what we just covered and apply it to each case. All right, so read each case carefully, read the scenario, think about the key details, and then we're going to discuss the challenges of each case. All right, so let's take a look at the first one. All right, so we're talking about a single family home versus a multifamily property investment. So here's our first scenario. So Mark, he's deciding to purchase a single family home in a suburban neighborhood. Well, he's trying to decide, is it going to be a suburban community, or is it going to be a multifamily duplex in a city type of situation? So the single family home costs $250,000, right? That's how much it's going to cost for him to purchase it. And he would rent that out for $1,500 a month. Now, the duplex, on the other hand, is going to cost $300,000, but the duplex has 2 units, and each of those units will rent for $1,200 a month. So the question here is, which property offers the better return on investment? So that is an ROI, return on investment. So let's take a look at this scenario, and I want you to unmute yourself and let me know the answer to question 1. Which property offers the better return on the investment? So $1,500 a month versus $2,400 a month. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, so the duplex.
I think the duplex.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And that's one of the things that is a deal breaker when people are looking to get into real estate investing. They want to know, okay, well, what is the best return on my investment? So in this case, it would definitely be the duplex because they're going to get more money each month versus a single family property. Now, here's question number 2. What are the benefits of owning a multifamily property over a single family home?
You have more units to get an income from.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, but what are some challenges that Mark might face with the multifamily property?
Keeping all the units occupied.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Anybody else? Anything else can you think of? Think about worst case scenario.
Repairs for multiple units.
There you go. Absolutely. You have more income coming in, but sometimes you have more repairs that are needed. So that could be a challenge. Great response. Let's go to case study number 2. So Sarah owns a multifamily apartment complex in the neighborhood where vacancy rates have been increasing for the past few months. All right, so that's a neighborhood problem. Currently, her apartments are renting for $1,500 a month, but she's finding it harder to fill those vacant units. So here's our first question here. How might Sarah adjust her rental prices to attract tenants? So it's a neighborhood problem. The vacancy rates have been increasing because people just don't want to live in the neighborhood. But what could Sarah do?
She could lower the prices of the rent.
Yep, she could do that. She could also maybe offer an incentive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, well, if you move in by the 1st or the 15th, we'll give you, or maybe no application fee, or maybe we give you $200 off, right? So she's going to have to do something to get tenants in, and usually reducing the rent will definitely do that. But what other strategies can Sarah use to reduce the vacancies?
Mm. Mm.
Now, so I've given quite a few, but Sarah could also, so let's say, for instance, Sarah has tenants in the building, right? She have other tenants in the building. She could offer her tenants a referral. If one of her current tenants refers someone else, she can give that tenant maybe a certain percentage off of their rent as well. So there are different things that people can do to help fill those vacancies. Let's take a look at question 3 here. How can Sarah track the effectiveness of these changes? Now, this is definitely an important question because you always want to track the effectiveness. You want to know what's working and why. So if Sarah is effective with using what we just mentioned, how can she track that effectiveness?
With the income coming in,
Mm-hmm.
I guess your bookkeeping, you can, I guess, see how much you have coming in monthly now, as opposed to the other months when you didn't have any tenants in the property.
Absolutely. And she should always ask, when she lease a tenant up, when she get a new tenant, she should always ask, how did you hear about my property? She wants to learn, okay, well, what method is working? Because when you find something that works, that's what you want to stick to. And when it comes to advertising and marketing, sometimes you have to pay for that. So she want to look at, okay, well, what method is working the best? Because that's what I want to double down on to reduce those vacancy rates. Good response. Thank you so much for that. We have another case study here. Now, this one is about the tenant demand in a growing city. So John owns a small apartment building in a city that's growing rapidly. So everybody want to be there. There's a lot of demand for rental properties because of the new tech companies moving into the area. So that means there are jobs, right? His building is near the city's tech hub, but it's currently underpriced compared to other rental properties nearby. Here's our first question. How can John take advantage of the growing tenant demand?
You could check to see what the other properties are going for in that same neighborhood.
Yep, absolutely. Were you finished?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Okay, absolutely. He want to take a look at what the rents are going for in the community. Now, what might happen if John keeps his prices too low?
he may not see a return on his investment.
I mean, because ultimately he could be leaving some money on the table. And
Mm,
if the prices are too low, sometimes, not all times, but sometimes it could attract the wrong type of tenants if the prices are too low, right? So those are just a couple of things that could happen if his prices are too low. So what are some ways that John could make sure that he's attracting the right tenants?
maybe do background check.
Absolutely. I would
Yeah.
always recommend a background.
And maybe do like a deposit, just to make sure, maybe match the rental fees or something to that nature, damage fees.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Background check, making sure that he's incorporating fees, um, of course, in accordance to the law, because I recognize that sometimes people would just charge whatever they like. I've had some clients I've been working with over the years, and unfortunately, one of them got themselves into a really tight situation. The Office of Attorney General actually forced them out of their property because they were charging extra fees that were illegal, were not refunding people money. And I always like to talk about understanding and knowing the laws and what you can do. And so, yeah, so he wants to attract the right tenant, but he want to make sure that he's doing things by the book and not charging too much. All right, let's take a look at our fourth case study here. So this one is about the commercial property versus the residential property. So here it is. David is deciding whether to invest in a retail storefront in a busy shopping district or a residential apartment building in a nearby suburban area. So the retail space will cost $500,000 and has a potential lease rate of $4,000 a month, while the apartment building will cost $600,000 and could bring in $3,500 a month from 4 rental units. All right, so the retail space, let's just say that is give me a high-end store that you like to shop in or that you know of, or maybe somewhere in your jurisdiction where you live at. It could be a food or clothing or shoes, type of sporting, any type of store. Give me an example. Give me one store, a retail store.
Foot Locker.
Foot Locker. Okay, so here, Foot Locker retail space would cost $500,000 and has a potential lease rate of $4,000 a month, right? So meaning that, okay, you got a Foot Locker there, you're getting $4,000 a month. The apartment building will cost $600,000 and it could bring in $3,500 a month for 4 rental units. All right. So keeping that in mind, which property offers a higher monthly income?
The commercial space, the retail space.
Let's take a look at that. So the retail space will bring in $4,000 a month, while
Mhm.
the apartment building will bring in $3,500 a month for 4 units.
Oh, so each
So
unit is
each unit
3,500.
is, yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Oh, by all means, a residential property.
Yeah, so that residential, if we multiply 3,500 times those 4 units, that's 14,000 a month. So that's a difference of 10,000. Now, if there were more retail spaces, then of course, yeah, you get more income out of that. But in this case, that residential is going to bring in more income. So let's take a look at question 2. What are the risks associated with investing in commercial properties? So Kay mentioned that there's a Foot Locker that's going into this retail space. What is a risk when it comes to commercial properties?
If the sales don't do good, it could potentially close before their lease. It might not get all your return of investment back.
Yep, that's true, and that's good. Absolutely. So let's say, for instance, let's say, for instance, Kay mentioned Foot Locker, right? Well, now a lot of people are losing their jobs. There's been a shift with the leadership in the United States. Jobs are being cut, and people are not shopping anymore because they don't have the income to go out and buy these shoes from Foot Locker. So Foot Locker realizes, like, listen, we've received a significant decline in our sales. Unfortunately, we're going to have to break our lease and shut our business down, right? And so that is a risk, associated with investing in commercial properties, because you just don't know if that retailer is going to be in business long term or short term. Thank you for that one. Now let's take a look at question 3 here. How do the responsibilities of managing commercial property differ from residential properties? What's the difference between the two in terms of responsibilities?
I have no clue.
I would say location. With commercial buildings, it's about what's the area location, what's going to be attractive, what's going to bring in the most clientele, and then with residential, I mean, it's important to them too, but you're more likely to have a lower vacancy rate with residential.
That's good. And then also consider this: when it comes to commercial space, they're only in that space for a certain period, maybe during business hours or whatever their operating hours are. So it's not like someone is living in that space and is always there 24 hours a day, right? And so the responsibilities might not be as challenging when it comes to repairs and maintenance, because they're only there for a set time when they're at work, and then they leave, they shut the doors, they lock the doors, they go home, they come back the next day. Versus a residential property, you can have one person, you can have multiple people, you can have, a family of one or a family of 21, just depending on the property size. So those are just some of the differences there. All right, so we're not done, but we're finished here with the slide deck. So take a moment to reflect on today's lesson and the case study. I want you to think about this because you will have a homework assignment. So write down your thoughts and your insights on the different types of properties. Think about not just the types of property, but also think about the tenant demand and what that means. Think about the vacancy rate and how that impacts that bottom line. If you own property and that vacancy rate is too high for too long, how does that impact your business? And then I also want you to think about and write down, what did you learn about the single family home, the multifamily home, and the commercial property? Like, what's the difference between each of these properties here? All right, so let me stop sharing my screen. I'm going to bring up the homework assignment. Kay, can you also drop the link for the homework assignment, please? But let me pull it up on the screen. Let me share it so that you can see what the homework assignment is. All right, thank you, Kay. So in the comment section, she did drop the link for the homework assignment. Let me share my screen again. All right, so this is your homework assignment. So we're talking about the different rental properties, right? So the question is, which rental property would you manage? So here's your assignment. So you're going to choose a type of property and then prepare a short 1-minute explanation on why you would prefer to manage that type of property. So in your explanation, try to touch on multiple bullet points here. What interests you about that specific type of property? What challenges are you willing to take on? What skills do you think you'll need? What is one potential risk or challenge of manage this type of property, and how would you prepare for it? All right, so I said it's a homework assignment, but you know what? We have a few minutes. Let's take a few seconds and let's do this now. It's just a few of us today, so let's do this now. All right, so let's go back. You have your single family home, right? That's just one property. You have your multi-family home, which is an apartment building. And then you have your commercial space, which is like a retail space. So let's take a minute. So let's pause for like maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Just kind of write it out, unless you're driving. And let's go ahead and just share this in class while we still have time. All right, how you coming along? Almost finished? You need more time? All right, Miss Fitzpatrick.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll let you go first, and Ms. Dunmore, then Kay.
Okay, perfect. I would prefer to manage the multi-residential property, and that was because because I enjoy working with different kinds of people, and I feel like that would be easier for me to manage, like one location as opposed to different locations, which can be, in my opinion, more efficient than managing homes spread out, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I like to problem solve, so I believe that would the disputes on maintenance and my organizational skills would be better suited for that, and making sure that the property that I'm managing will be upkept, um, and ensuring the best possible, I guess, outcome for the rental property and return on it, ROI. I think I said it right.
Beautiful. I like that. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right, Ms. Dunmore.
Okay, so I said that I would prefer to manage a multi-family property, and what interests me about it is the ability or the potential to make more income. The challenges that I was willing to take on, um, oh, the challenge I would be willing to take on is keeping all the units occupied and, potentially taking on many, maintenance issues that probably will occur more frequently with it being a multi-family unit versus a single family unit. The skills that I think I'll need: communication, organization, time management. And one potential risk or challenge of managing that type of property, again, I would say, just keeping all the units occupied. And how would I prepare for it? It would be, what did you say earlier? Keeping abreast of the neighborhood and just staying on top of the value or the rents that are being charged, so that I would know how to price my property if necessary or as necessary.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I like that strategy. Kay.
Yes, I definitely agree with what Ms. Dunmore said. I choose with I too would choose the multifamily home, simply because there's definitely a lot more income coming in to support the maintenance of the property. The challenges that I would have to take on, or the challenges that I would take on, um, would be property damages, like if they have a lot of kids. Kids like to play horseplay, they might put holes in the walls,
Mm.
things like that. Skills that I think I would need is definitely time management and organization. You have to keep things organized for, oh, this apartment needs this done. This apartment may need a refrigerator, the stove fixed. Another apartment might have maintenance issues with their toilet. They might need, they might have a hole in the wall the size of a body. So every apartment would be different. You just have to keep everything organized as to what you would have to do, to just keep up with that apartment, so that they're not always complaining. Communication, strong communication skills. Yeah. And the potential risk or the challenge for managing this type of property would go back to the challenges I would be willing to take on. Um, like I said, the first thing I think about is damages to the property. Because I won't say it's impossible, but it's a challenge alone to be able to keep up with the property. It's not like anything is never going to happen to the property. Accidents happens. So yeah. And I guess I would prepare for it by already having um maintenance guys. I will also prepare for it by having a 24-hour hotline that they can call. Like if there was a pipe burst in the middle of the night, I would want to make sure that tenant can be able to contact me anytime saying, hey, this is an emergency. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that feedback. Very good. I like it. All right. And because we completed this assignment in class, you don't have a homework assignment now. All right, so let's see what we have next. Not the clapping hands. No homework assignment. Let's see what else we have. So I'm going to send you the case studies, and I'm also going to make sure that you have a copy of the newsletter. Okay, are you able to drop that link for the newsletter in the comment section, please? So each week you'll get a newsletter with our key takeaways, our recap of the day, what we discussed. So let me share it. Let me share my screen so that you can see what it looks like. All right, so this is the newsletter here, and you will receive this by way of email. All right, so just a reminder of the different type of properties that we covered, our key takeaways, and just also if you have any questions, that's my email address on the newsletter there, professorcarissaspan@gmail.com. And I want to make sure I'm not overlooking anything. So we're going to give you the slide deck. I don't think, Kay, do you have the link for the slide deck? If not, we'll email that. So although we did drop the links, although Kay dropped the links in the comment section, I'm going to send an email out as well with this information, just in case you have any issues pulling it up on a Google Drive. So that's it. That's for class on today. And next week when we come back, week 3, we are going to go a little bit deeper into property management, but specifically talking about landlord and tenant laws, why that's so important. And for me, let me just tell you that that's one of the favorite topics or subject matters to teach on, to talk about, because I believe that the laws are so important. There are different sets of laws, and of course, I'll go over this next week, but what you don't know can and will hurt you, and not knowing the laws, not understanding the laws, from my experience, has definitely been a big factor in landlords being taken to court by tenants. It's always so heartbreaking when I see, I hear, I learn of good people who just didn't know the law and they ended up getting sued by tenants, and it happens all the time. So next week, we're going to cover that, right? So that's the class for today. Let me stop recording now.